Rose Sinclair is a researcher, curator, and academic in textiles and design. And later this year, she will be presented with the Most Excellent Order of the British Empire, the MBE, for championing the design practices of Caribbean women, which have been overlooked for years. So it's so great to have her on Smile Jamaica. Good morning, Rose.
Good morning, Dahlia. So nice of you to have me on your show today.
Oh, it's awesome having you. I'm interested, what sparked your passion for textile and design?
Well, first of all, four things. My mum, who taught me to knit and crochet when I was about 4, and then she taught me to sew by the time I was 6. Then I had a fantastic textiles and art teachers who said by the time I was 12, you could have a career in this. Then it was watching the women in my local church knit and sew, and they were sewing to help raise money to put the roof on the church, to help raise money for mission, and they were sewing either in the church hall or in the front room. And then there was something that my mum always said, that sewing was a gift that you used to give back, and that just stuck with me. And do you know what? You know when you have an affinity with something? I just have a thing about sewing and textiles, and it's been a passion that has just stayed with me as long as I can remember. It's my go-to thing.
Yeah, it's a very powerful thing. I'm listening to you talk, and when you said the church, I'm like, they're the Tabithas in the church. They're they're the Tabithas in the church. So not only do you sew, but you've studied textile and design. What would have, therefore, extended that passion to that kind of engagement with textile and design?
I think going into academia and studying it, but not only studying it, but teaching it. Yeah. And it's when you start to teach textiles and then you see that there are gaps in that study, gaps in the academic space, where you then don't see yourself. You don't see yourself. You don't see the textiles, the crochet. You know the crochet that sits on the cabinet. You don't see the chair backs. You don't see the some of the amazing cloth. You don't see. Do you remember the all sides Jamaica women that used to do those fantastic embroideries? I don't see that in the textbooks. I didn't see it in the textbooks that I was then presenting to students. So if I'm teaching design, I want to see myself represented. I didn't see that. And on my first visit to the Caribbean back in the 1990s, I felt I'd come home. My mum and dad always told me about the Caribbean, but until I came in the 1990s, I then felt I'd come home. And then I started to collect textiles. I met my grandma for the second time in my life. I met my aunties, I met my cousins. And I started to see the things that mum had always told me about. And that's when I thought, I'm missing something. There's something missing when I come back to England that I do in the textbooks. And that just spurred me on to find out, how can I make us visible in the spaces that I teach?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, Rose, I could talk to you all morning. There's so much to unpack. You are a yarn designer?
Yeah.
What's a yarn designer?
You know, the very thread that you're wearing, the cloth, the cloth that we make comes from a thread, doesn't it? A yarn. So in the industry, I did a degree in that is combines science and art. So I actually have a Bachelor of Science degree in textiles. And so we learn all about the industry. So not only did we learn how to make clothes, we learn where that cloth comes from. And before I even graduated, I got offered a job with a company that made Shetland yarns, lamb's wool. And so I got to be at the very start of the design process, that bit where you actually have to design the yarn. Yes. So you actually design a yarn that then goes to making garments. So I had to do trend work, where you go and you research colours. So I was actually called a colourist. So I would actually research colours, what would be the trends for colours, then make up the garments that would then go to trade shows.
Oh my gosh.
Fashion. So I was right at the beginning of the process of what you then see would be the top that you're wearing.
Yes.
So somebody has to design the yarn that then makes the cloth.
Makes the cloth. That's so exciting. I mean, sometimes you put clothes on and you say, "Oh my gosh, this feels so good," or the colors are so great, and you're one of the people that's behind it. What's the background of the students who normally engage with your courses and your classes in terms of a cultural background? Mostly Caribbean students or textile students in general?
The students that come on our course come from a whole range of backgrounds. They're 19 to 60.
Wow.
They are Black, white, Asian, South Asian, all from different cultural backgrounds. And what they come to engage with is what I call an interdisciplinary course in design. So they come to look at how they can question what design does, how it plays a part in our society, and how we can use it as a tool to change what we think about what we do as artists and designers, because everything we do is designed.
Yeah.
Everything we have is designed. The iPad that you're looking at, the iPad that you have, the clothes that we wear, the shoes that we put on our feet, the houses, the spaces that we have, everything is designed. And as designers, we can question that. And we can design to actually question politics. We can use it to question the spaces that we're in.
Absolutely.
And I use my textiles practice to just do that. So what you're looking at today is the thing that I'd use to question the Windrush stories. So how we can question politics, but we can do it in a way that also questions our craft stories. And we can go into archives and go into museums. We can unpick and say, well, okay, if you've got our textiles there, why are they hidden in the archives?
Yeah. We could have an entire discussion about the ways in which that Windrush generation would have impacted fashion and textiles and art in the UK, as we had in terms of the music, the food. Oh my gosh, Rose, I'm enjoying the conversation. But I have to move to your award. It's the third highest ranking order of the British Empire, the MBE. How do you feel about this honor and what it says about your work?
I'm humbled, but I'm also overwhelmed. And for me, I think if my mum was here, still around, and my mother-in-law, I think, first of all, they would have the hats ready. But more than that, it's a platform now to keep doing the work that I still do. I am so passionate about what I do. And it's just a way to keep talking about the textiles that we have and how we value it.
Yeah.
I've had so many people come back to me after I've done workshops and say, I am not going to throw away my grandmother's crochet anymore. I'm not going to throw away that embroidery. I now know it has value. Because in the UK, we don't have a gallery that's just totally devoted to a Caribbean museum or Caribbean textiles. And I come to the Caribbean and I go around the museums. I do want to see my Caribbean textiles. I want to see that honoured and celebrated, the craft that our grandmothers did. Recently, I was at the Pitt Rivers Museum in Oxford, and I found some Caribbean crochet dated 1855, made from plantain fibre.
What?
That threw me. I'm thinking, so if we made plantain fibre? Out there in Jamaica, come back to me. Tell me some stories, please. I want to know a bit more. But yes, I'm honoured. I'm honoured by it, and it just spurs me on to do more work, and it validates what I've been doing all these years.
Rose, it's such an honour to meet you. I mean, I'm invested in different types of cultural texts, is what I call it, and textile, interestingly, text is the first couple of words, is a cultural text. It says so much about us as a people and so much about how we express ourselves as a people. And so I'm very, very happy that you've been invested in sharing that text with your students and people globally. Congratulations on your award, and thank you so much for speaking with us this morning.
Thank you for having me. And I'll say a big hello to all my family out in Jamaica. And I hope to really see you all soon. But thank you for having me. And for all of those out there, please keep your textiles. They are valuable. They tell our stories. They enrich us culturally. And I think one thing about textiles, they fade away. But if we keep them and honour them and treasure them, they start to tell a different story. They are the story of our past, the story of our present, and the story of our future. And I think one of the things that we have to do, we have to look at a way of conserving them, but also tell our students that there is a value in actually being an academic and researching about them and teaching about them. And the more that we teach about our arts and our crafts, the more then that they have value. And the more then that people can kind of say that how we can champion them as a cultural heritage. And the more that we can look at them and say, right, how do we put these in a museum and how do we conserve them? And what I'm trying to do is think about the stories that connect us both in that diaspora and back home.
Excellent.
So for those people back home, keep them.
Excellent, excellent, wonderful. Award-winning textile expert, Rose Sinclair. The second edition of News in 5 is next.